And so one of the analogies that we've actually come up with that resonates really, really well with a lot of people is we actually say, it's like, hey, it's like, have you ever gone to like a beach vacation and you're like, it's been a while since you've really been outside enough and you're afraid you're going to get burnt? Like, what do a lot of people try to do? They actually go in and they try to get what we call a base tan. And so like we're trying to preemptively make it to where when we go there, it'll be much easier when we actually do hit that kind of exposure to the sun. And so of course, not the exact same thing here, but like we're trying to make it to where when you have the surgery, it's going to be significantly faster, significantly easier, and you have even better outcomes leading into it. And so that's what we'll be able to do over the next 4 weeks. So that way it's a little bit easier for you. What's up, my Rehab CEOs? It's Dr. Joey Allbritton with Rehab CEOs, and we're going to be walking through another objection today. So this is a pretty common one we get. This is when someone comes in and they say, hey, my doctor told me I needed this, but I think I just need surgery. And so if you've heard this one, this is going to be one that you're like, oh crap, okay, like we know prehab's important, but we need to figure out how to let them know that. And so a lot of times we kind of get into some very like weird conversations here because we want to start to educate way too hard, or we don't even know the context of the conversation that happened before. Because for all of y'all, like realistically know that most cases, the reason a doctor is sending someone to you for prehab is because realistically, they don't see it as prehab. They see it as someone needs to come in 2 times a week for 4 weeks to actually hit their standards, to actually go through insurance coverage so they can actually do the surgery. And so you do kind of need to understand the frame of how it was actually coming up. And that's why a lot of times we ask them what the reasoning was. And so just know that we have to kind of get that there, but just know it's more of a negative, maybe neutral response, but it's definitely not like a neutral or like positive. So we need to kind of diffuse this a little bit and be a little bit careful of kind of how we do this, because they know there's a vehicle that can help them, at least in their head. And currently that is surgery. That is not physical therapy. And so this is something that realistically, they probably haven't had physical therapy before, because it's kind of a weird one to be referred back from a doctor, unless they just did like 1 week somewhere, they hated the place, and like they know that, again, they need 4 weeks to actually get clearance from the insurance to actually do it. That would be the only time there. So you might want to consider that. Just contextually listen. Did they maybe have physical therapy before? Because it may not really necessarily be I don't want it and I want surgery. It's I don't think physical therapy works. But that's such a small number there that I would probably not do that. It's just more so just like keep your ear out for that one, just to make sure. Because if we have that, we have to definitely conquer that. And so for them, it's like, hey, totally get it. Out of curiosity, did your doctor give you any reason for recommending PT before surgery? And so this allows us to start to have a better idea of like, what was the conversation? Because sometimes it's going to be like, I just need you to go, because they know that it's not actually going to cover. And so a lot of times they're going to say, you need this, it'll give you better results, because they know that someone's actually going to have more buy-in if they do that and at least come for their 4 weeks. And so whatever their reason is, if it's something where they actually like, they did give a reason, and it's like, hey, just double down on that. Like they're already the authority. They already trust them enough to let them do surgery. So it would make sense that they would be okay with whatever that reason is. They're just needing a double confirmation. And so it's like, okay, perfect. I agree 100%. Most patients don't realize the importance of 3 weeks of prehab, which is what we call just the therapy before surgery. So it allows you to recover quicker once you do. Usually, honestly, that's enough. Like when you say quicker, it sounds like a benefit, then they're willing to do that. Their doctor already told them. You don't really need to go too much more into that. The more common thing is the doctor didn't tell them jack crap outside of they need to actually come in for physical therapy. And so they have no contact. And so the way you have to start to explain this is like, hey, like realistically, there's only 2 options that can happen. Is one of them, you come in, you improve your strength, your range of motion, your mobility, and all of those things. So that way, whenever you have your surgery, it'll just be significantly easier for you to actually have the best possible outcome. I always like to anchor to best possible outcome, because it's kind of unrealistic with healthcare that someone does not want best possible outcome. And so one of the analogies that we've actually come up with that resonates really, really well with a lot of people is we actually say, it's like, hey, it's like, have you ever gone to like a beach vacation and you're like, it's been a while since you've really been outside enough and you're afraid you're going to get burnt? Like, what do a lot of people try to do? They actually go in and they try to get what we call a base tan. And so like we're trying to preemptively make it to where when we go there, it'll be much easier when we actually do hit that kind of exposure to the sun. And so, of course, not the exact same thing here, but like we're trying to make it to where when you have the surgery, it's going to be significantly faster, significantly easier, and you have even better outcomes leading into it. And so that's what we'll be able to do over the next 4 weeks. So that way it's a little bit easier for you. But realistically, though, outcome number 2 is actually we do all this stuff, and over the next couple of weeks, you're like, hey, I don't actually need surgery. Like I'm getting better with my pain. I'm getting better range of motion. I'm feeling stronger. Like, maybe I don't want to do that. And so that's why a lot of people do this, because there's a lot of doctors that are like, hey, you're kind of in between this. Like, I think we could actually strengthen you and do some of these things with physical therapy. And if I don't have to put a scalpel to your knee, then like I would much rather do that, because they're maybe more of a conservative doctor. And so I know Dr. So-and-so is typically very conservative, which is good, because if you need it, yes, definitely have surgery. If you don't, then I mean, I don't know anybody that wants to just have like surgery for the fun of it. And so that'll allow us to see what that looks like. And so if we're 2, 3, 4 weeks in, you'll be like, hey, I don't want to have the surgery. And we just continue physical therapy, and then you'll be good. And so that's really how that works. And really kind of the hidden outcome here for, again, most people is where insurance requires 4 weeks. So even if they're like, no, it's like, well, your insurance requires 4 weeks anyways. And they're like, crap. So like, you can still get them in, but we'd like it to be for a benefit, not because of like, hey, our stuff is not going to work. You're just going to be here begrudgingly and you're going to be kind of a miserable patient. But that is like the last, like, I need to pull something out of my back pocket. Like that's how you truly overcome it if you need. It's like, hey, like most insurances, they require 4 weeks of physical therapy, which I mean, when you think about it, why would they require 4 weeks? Because they have statistical data that a lot of people can go through physical therapy and then actually not need surgery. And so I think you are actually a very, very good candidate for physical therapy. So based on that, would later today or tomorrow work best for you to get an eval? That allows you to just literally like imply the close, because it's kind of unreasonable at that point for them to be like, yep, because you have to remember, guys, this person's already calling you. Like this isn't someone who is there, and maybe you got a referral from the doctor and you're calling them. That may be the other frame. But if they're calling you, they already are on the way there. Like don't bring too much of a, oh, this is a crazy hard objection. Like they want a solution. They already told by the doctor they need to do it. Now, if you're calling them because you were faxed over a referral and you're trying to get them on there, that's more of the objection handling you're having to hit here. But you'll be able to overcome so many more with this one, and you'll have significantly better outcomes too. Because if we don't hit some of this stuff on the front end, we haven't started to pre-frame the importance of physical therapy, and you're going to have no-shows, cancellations, people that only do a couple visits, they drop off, they don't do their home exercise program. So of course, this has to be continuously validated and continuously sold on the back end by your providers too. Again, like we're always selling. We have to sell them on the home exercise program. We got to sell them actually showing up. We got to sell them on the frequency that we told them. We got to sell them why it's important. Like we're always selling. So it does not stop here. And we need to have better handoff from front office of like, hey, this was a concern. They didn't want to actually do this because they just wanted surgery. Your providers need to know that. So whenever we do the evaluation, we can double down and confirm there and make sure there's no other hesitations there, so we don't end up having more. Because remember, 14% is the national no-show cancellation rate. We don't want to be a statistic. We want to be better than that. And so this will allow us to get that down. Our length of stay will go up. Our graduation rate will go up. And you'll just continue to be able to help more people, prevent more surgeries. And the other thing here, guys, we don't want to have a hard frame of you don't need surgery, because none of these actually implied you do not need surgery. It's like we could get to a point of you not needing surgery, because a lot of times I hear this when I listen to call recordings and stuff like that. You're saying you don't need surgery because you go into like, oh, there's actually research of I do this and you don't need imaging, you do this. And then like what happens is the patient then calls the doctor and says, well, Joe Schmo said that I actually don't need to have surgery. And then now doctor says, cool, well, I'm never referring to that person again. And so you'll be able to quickly tell who can or can't get away without having surgery. So there's no sense in having that battle on the first call. You'll have much more rapport with the patient by then too. And so that's the thing to look at there is do not push against like you do not need surgery. One, as a front office, like you don't really know that yet until you've actually seen them clinically. And two, we want to make sure that we're not biting the hand that feeds us. Like I know some of y'all are going to be like, oh, well, I don't want to be dependent on doctors. Cool. Don't be dependent on doctors. I have other sources and stuff like that. But you and I both know that doctors, literally one doctor can change your practice. I have someone right now that gets 15 referrals a week from one doctor. Most of y'all, that would change your entire life. So y'all can not go for doctors. That's fine. But like if I'm growing a business and the ones that we've had in the hundreds of clinics we're helping, the ones that have strong doctor doctor referral relationships or strong business referrals, if you're maybe on the cash side, like they're the ones that grow the fastest. And so I want less friction. So if you want less friction, try this out. If you have any questions around this, comment below. If you think it'll be helpful, comment below. And as usual, if you have any other objection, you're like, hey, Joey, I'm dying over here. Please let me know what I need to do for this one. Drop it in the comments. We'll add it to the list. Like I said, this is probably going to be like a year ongoing thing because like we just keep getting into more nuanced stuff. And I just want y'all to have a full library of all this. And so drop it below if you have another one, and I'll see y'all on the next one.